Welcome back to your channel. My name is Brad. I'm already tired. I'm already down like so much sweet tea. I don't know. It's just one of those days. It's Sunday morning. I've been waiting for information to come in so I can give you some sweet tea today. First of all, somebody reached out and said, hey, I'll give you some dinero. So this is going to be a sponsored comment on EOS. It's a closed-end fund. And EOI, another closed-end fund. And they meet my requirements. Pretty much. They are outpacing the S&P 500, not on a 3-year chart. I'm going to call somebody out. When I looked at the 3-year chart, it wasn't outpacing. But the 20-year, 10-year, 5-year, 1-year, these funds are outpacing. They pay you 8%. Their cover calls on one. The other one, I could not figure out how they're making income because somebody, of course, emails me at 3 o'clock in the morning, my time. So I have about 20 minutes to figure out before I start recording, how do they make their money? And I don't know. EOS is cover calls. And they've been doing it for 20 years. So anybody that says cover calls are a thing of the past and all these funds are going to go to zero, here's a fund 20 years old, 20 years, beating the S&P 500, paying you 8%, and you just can't make it up. So shout out to them, thank you very much. I'm going to make a sweet tea version of EOS and EOI later this afternoon. It's going to be a whole lot less formal. It's actually going to be like me looking at my screen instead of me trying to remember everything. And I'm just going to put it together and throw it out so you guys can look at it. The only thing that I will say about it on this during the sweet tea session is be careful that you're buying it under NAV. There's my comments. And I'm going to show you the charts. And I'm going to give you the link in that video of where you can actually go look up what the NAV is and what the current price is. And if you're buying it under NAV, then you're good to go. If you're buying it over NAV, I'd be a little more concerned. But you can go look it up before you buy it. I mean, that's whatever you do. Don't leave a message. And don't leave a message and say, is this above NAV or below NAV? Come on. I'm not your financial advisor. There was another question earlier today, before I jumped on to do the video, that they didn't feel comfortable with the fund. Hey, if you don't feel comfortable with the fund, don't ask me, do you still feel comfortable with the fund? My comfort level is different than your comfort level. I wasn't comfortable with a couple funds. I got out and I received all kinds of negative feedback. That's because I was not comfortable with it. If you're not comfortable with anything I say, do not invest in it. Don't be like sheep. Just because I got into it doesn't mean you should get into it. Please do your own research. Please don't ask me to go look up every single underlying asset and tell you why it hasn't performed. That's not my job. Hire a financial advisor, pay them thousands of dollars so they can have financial analysts do the work for them so they can bring it up and say, well, that's not performing, and look at a screen and read it off to you. I'm a single person. I don't have the resources. I wish I did have the resources to sit there and touch a button and tell you exactly why something's not performing up to par. It's an underlying resource. It's the underlying resources. It's the underlying assets. If the underlying assets aren't performing, in this particular one, they had foreign funds. I don't know. Was Asia underperforming? Tell me that Asia's underperforming. You can look it up just as much as I can. I'm going to use Seeking Alpha to look it up. So please, do your own research. Do your own research. Okay, enough about that. Let's talk about everything else. The Dow Jones is up 300 points this week. NASDEQ continues to lag. By the way, that fund owns the NASDEQ and it continues to lag. Just saying. I'm actually reading my resources now. Press the button. I do have a little bit of resources. Anyway, let's have some fun. So global semiconductors had a crushing blow this week, if you didn't know. All right, resulting in $420 billion in losses. Whoops. All right, that's because Dutch semiconductor, ASML, had a disappointing 2025 forecast. Wow. One semiconductor manufacturer gives a forecast, and it was disappointing, and $420 billion in losses. All right, so there you go. We'll just call it as it is. That's why people ask, why don't you like individual stocks? That's why. One miss, or not even miss, just one lowering of forecast can devastate your portfolio. I'm sorry. I'd rather my NASDAQ go down a little bit than, or an Intel, where an Intel comes out and says something and the stock plummets 20%. That is why I'm not into individual stocks. I got, 100 shares, now it's a couple more than that, of AMZY and NVIDIA and Misty. Those are not, if they go to zero, they are not going to ruin my retirement. It's play money. Maybe it ends up being more than play money in 5 years, but hey, it's the play money. Just throw it out. Individual stocks, be careful. Unless you personally know the CEO, and I'll just tell you this, I knew Darius Almachek at Honeywell. He's retired CEO now, but I personally knew him. And let's just say, even though I personally knew Darius Almachek, I didn't invest in Honeywell. There you go. And that's my personal opinion about individual stocks. If you don't know the CEO personally and getting inside information, then nobody ever shared inside information with me. We'll just leave it at that. Not financial advice. But if you don't know exactly what's going on inside the company before everything else, like Congress people, that's your better bet, is following Congress people and seeing what they're doing and betting on what they're betting on, because they have information that you don't have on individual stocks. All right, retail earnings is kicking off with a surprisingly positive earnings season from banks, setting a stage for upcoming tech sector earnings that are expected to bolster U.S. indexes. You heard it here first. Retail earnings season kicked off with a surprisingly positive earnings season from banks, setting the stage for upcoming tech sector earnings that are expected to bolster U.S. indexes. Take that one to the bank. What does that tell you? Maybe where you should put your money. But I am going to tell you this. I am not investing at this time in stocks. I'm going to T-SPY, I'm going to put a little money there. I'm going to put my money into SVOL. I think stocks are getting to the point that they're becoming a little pricey. And if I'm going to buy a little bit, it's just going to be a small DCNA in, small. just because it's starting to get a little pricey, little hot. Personal opinion. You do you. This is not financial advice. Please, not financial advice. You do you. I do me. Keep it that way. And just because I get out of something doesn't mean you have to. Just saying it. Here's my guns. Remember? Quick draw? Anyway. Geopolitical tensions continue with uncertainty in global energy markets. Can't make this up. Can't make it up. Right? These are those oil prices and what have you. You can't make that stuff up. It's happening. Unfortunately, some of these wars are religious wars, and they're going to go on for a long time. And there's nothing that we can personally do about it, and I feel sorry for the people. That's just my personal opinion. Remember, this is the Brad Show, personal opinion, my side. All right, if you're not paying attention, and who is not paying attention, Bitcoin surged to a 2-month high. Significant flows into the ETFs. Now, have you been watching this? Because if you're not, you're behind the times. So BlackRock and Fidelity, on average, is buying more Bitcoin than the amount of Bitcoin being mined every day. And they've been doing it since January. Just throwing it out. 2 companies or organizations are buying more Bitcoin every single day on average. And it's not like a little bit. They're buying 3 times as much Bitcoin every single day on average than what's actually getting mined. This can only happen so much longer until there's no more Bitcoin. And what happens when there's no more Bitcoin and the demand is there? It's going to go up. Now, I personally don't invest very much into Bitcoin anymore. I do run my Bitcoin miners, which I turned off for this video, but that's me. That's because I'm at my point of retirement. Misty is my great play with, a whole $2,000 or $2,500 now. Man, I think it's even a little more than that. It's less than $3,000. All right. That is my great play into Bitcoin right now. Now, it's where I am in my life. All right. Now, I do have actually mined Bitcoin, and I'm keeping that on the side. But if you're not paying attention and they're buying 3 times the daily, BlackRock and Fidelity, just those 2 are buying more Bitcoin every single day than is actually getting mined. That can only last so long. Just pointing it out. I think they're coming up to 1 million Bitcoin between the 2, something like that, or between all the ETFs is getting close to 1 million Bitcoin. That's a big chunk of the actual Bitcoin that's actually available. Because you got people like me out here mining it myself. And if you can hold Bitcoin, if you can be a whole Bitcoiner, if I was in my 20s, I would do everything possible to get a Bitcoin. Not financial advice. Just either put it in a cold wallet or buy the ETF, whichever is easiest for you. And I like the ETFs because it's easy. You don't have to have, security keys or your seed phrases in your wallets. But hey, if you're in your 20s and your 30s and you can afford it, and it's 1% of your portfolio, you should have a whole Bitcoin. Might change your life. but not financial advice. Hey, treasury yields, they're fluctuating. 10 years dropped to 4.01. You'll notice that TLTW is starting to make a comeback. It bottomed out. I got stopped out. I got stopped out in profit. That's why I got stopped out in profit. Because I think Warren Buffett said, don't lose money. Come on, people, don't lose money. And that's why I'm screaming at the top of my lungs on some of this stuff. Don't lose money. Personal opinion. I try not to lose money. That's why I set stop losses. If it's any kind of risk, I set a stop loss. It is what it is. I get stopped out. I can buy again lower if I believe in an underlying asset. I wouldn't do that for SPY-T, and I wouldn't do that for GIAX just because of how they're structured. But hey, and I will be doing a video this week. It's been a recommended video. I am going to take what I know of the market on the S&P 500 and do all the income ETFs and rank them. And it's not going to be my ranking. I'm not going to be back testing every single one of these. I didn't think you guys realize how much back testing really takes out of a person. All right, especially when you get old. But I'm going to use Seeking Alpha, and I'm going to go through every single one of them, and I'm going to grade them on the 1 year, year to date, 6 months, 3 months, and take all the big ones. Because there's a couple of them I haven't covered, and I think they need a little love. I think they need to be covered. I think that you should see how they're performing against other ones, and just call it as it is. And it's literally going to be off of Seeking Alpha. I'm not going to do any back testing. It's not going to be my personal opinion. I'm just going to show you the data so you can choose which one you might want to get into as part of your research, because you're researching all this. Right? So we talked about that ASML forecast that impacts markets and the dynamics. You know, the NASDEQ slipped 1% because of it. 1% because of just one holding. That's a disappointing earnings, all right? Just saying, it's a disappointing earnings. All right, so keep that in mind. And if you don't know, ASML focuses on AI, right? So it's just out there. We talked about the global events in oil, and I'm going to throw up a global oil chart. I'm going to do the whole bam, bam. So, global oil production. And I kind of point this out and say, hey, and they say, oh, the United States is making more oil now than they ever have. Well, let's look at how the oil production looks across the world. We're doing well, but non-OPEC, excluding the United States, far outweighs us. And OPEC, excluding Iran, still looks like it's really more than us. And then we see Iran. I'm glad that we're making more oil than Iran. Not that I hate Iranians. Don't get me wrong. Every Iranian that I have actually met have been nice people. The people are nice. I just, certain things about the government, not so much. But the people, they're just like you and I. I mean, when I was in the military, I met a Russian soldier. Met him. He was what they would call on leave. He was on vacation. And he was in a castle in Germany, and I was in a castle in Germany. He spoke English, and we talked. Just imagine one day we were on a battlefield. He was a nice guy. But we're doing what the government tells us to do. And that's, sometimes you just got to throw your hands up. Because he was a really nice guy. We talked for a good couple hours. Just talked about everything. Talked about how he lived in Russia and stuff like that. And, you know, his military training. It was interesting. You know, why not talk to somebody that comes from a different culture? Because you'll learn something. So, hey, let's talk about sectors performance. And I'm going to throw up another chart. And it's going to be about the sectors. I like that. Anyway, industrials are up 6.1%. Financial services is up 5.3%. And this month. Technology is only up 4.46. So industrial and finances are beating the technical. Hey, energy's up 4.2. Good if you own Exxon. And I'll throw this out. So one day I'm going to receive money when my mom passes away. So my grandfather owned a company called Standard Oil Company. Had stock. You can just imagine what that's worth today. Moving on. Utilities, 3.8%. Basic materials, 3.78. Communications, 3.66. Consumer discretionary, 3.5. Real estate, down 1.4. Consumer staples, and that's an interesting. 2.1's down. That's interesting. Healthcare is down. But year to date, these are all up. You can read the chart yourself. But I kind of got myself in trouble the other day when I did my whole quick RDT roundup, which, by the way, I just wanted to get through that so I didn't get any negativity and have fun doing it. But I still got, I should slow down. They want my commentary. I wanted to stay out of the hot chair. And that was the second most disliked video that I've had. I don't get it. I literally show you the data and you guys don't like it. I don't know. And I'm going to continue to do those. I'm just going to do them on Saturday. Just going to show you the data. But I am going to slow down because there were some good points where people are watching and listening or just listening, and they like for me to read off a little bit more, to give a little more commentary on it, and I will. I'll do that in the future, and I keep on saying time heals all wounds, so people don't get all mad at me again and whatever. I mean, somebody made a comment yesterday about his 10,000 shares of XDTE. I'm sitting there going, so you got $500,000 sitting there. And your NAV is stable and you're collecting distributions until there's a 10% market correction and your NAV literally just dropped $50,000 and hopefully you got enough distributions to cover it. But who am I? Because the NAV is definitely not tracking. But that's here and there. Moving on. Because I still think they're great funds. I just think that there's other funds out there. And if you didn't know, and this is something I didn't mention yesterday in T-SPY, if you didn't know, daily cover call ETFs or daily calls are 4.5 times more profitable than longer dated calls for the same percentile as a daily average. I think I said that correctly. So if you take it and go, hey, I'm out 0.5% and take that as a daily average moving outwards, and you look at how much that long-term call would pay you compared to the short-time call, it's 4 times more profitable. That's why I want a 0DTE ETF. I just want one that the NAV moves and tracks the underlying. And that's what I saw with T-SPY. That's what I see with iSpy. It tracks that movement where XDTE is kind of flat and it's a little bit of tracking. And that's probably because their calls are a little too close to the money and they get capped, or they're not managing those calls. And that's just my personal opinion. And you do you and I do me. But 0DTEs could be a wave of the future, and you shouldn't miss out on them. You should pick a fund, be it iSpy, be it XDTE, because they should, theoretically, if managed correctly, outpace the market. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. And if you look at EOS, and hopefully I threw up some charts in that time period I was talking about it, and I'm going to do a video. It's going to be a sweet tea video. So it's just going to be me talking real quick, looking at my screen, because I am looking at my screen, by the way. If I look this way, I'm looking at my screen. And we're going to talk about the outperforming the market. And these are things that you're going to be, should be buying. So crude oil and the Chinese stimulus. All right, there is a corner of the world that may offer some upside pressure to energy. China. The country is the world's largest crude oil importer. That's interesting. Didn't know that. Personally didn't know that, but maybe. With the nation recently announcing stimulus measures, this could drive demand for imports in the commodity. See the chart below. Okay. See the chart on your screen. Bam. I had to throw that out just because I had fun doing that. I literally had fun doing that video. People didn't like it, but oh well. So hey, I'm going to throw these charts up. You can see this. So oil demand globally is going to go up. And I'm going to leave a link to the article so you can go read it yourself. All right? Because you should. You shouldn't take anything I say without reading it yourself. So I'll put some links down below to some Bloomberg articles and some other articles where this is coming from. Perhaps it's not making this stuff up as it goes, but it could be. No, I'm not. All right. Next chart. Big tech is reaping a big payoff from AI. Hey, that's a great statement. How much is big tech? All right. And this is the change in market value since ChatGPT launched in November 2022. And you can see it. NVIDIA, Microsoft, Meta, Apple, Amazon, and Alphabet, which is Google. That's a lot of trillions of dollars going into those companies. But anyway, it's an interesting conversation. It's from a Bloomberg article. You can go read that Bloomberg article yourself. Link below. All right. I'm just trying to bring you some value today, give you some insights, give you some thoughts. I think AI is going to continue for the next 10 years. That's why I'm betting on AIPI. Now, if you're a growth investor, there's better plays in the AI world. What I see a lot of people coming into income investing that are really growth investors. And I'm just like, why are you messing around with these funds when you can make a whole lot more money elsewhere? But hey, everybody's different. That's why there's so many ETFs out there in the world, that everybody's different. And we're going to call them different. Let's talk about real quick. Growth outperforms value across segments. Really? Growth. We just talked about this. Growth outperforms value across all segments. Brad, what are you talking about? Had to make the noise. Bam! Mid-cap growth, 6.16%. Small cap growth, and this is monthly, 5.43. Large cap growth, 4%. Large cap growth value, 3%. Mid cap value, 2.9. Small cap value, 2.89. That is a interesting conversation, that these Russell indexes, and we know why, they're betting on cheap money, right? Because when there's cheap money, it becomes easier for these smaller companies to make a little profit because they struggle profitability wise, and that's understandable. And article goes on that declining interest rates typically boost their value stocks by enhancing their relative appeal versus growth stocks. Oh, wow, there you go. That's why value, growth outperform value, but, declining interest rates boost their value stocks. There you go. We'll see how it all makes out. And I'm going to leave links to everything down below so you can read them. And I am going to go give you a little more sweet tea on this because there's another articles I wanted to reach into. Okay, I'm back. Didn't know I had to stop the video. Actually, new computer, never signed into my other email address, so I wanted to switch over and look at this. So we're going to talk about some life habits that you should adopt, especially if you're young. And these life habits are kind of important, and you wouldn't think much about them, but you should. First one, something you learn in the military, is you should make your bed. Yes, as a kid, you should make your bed because it makes you feel that you have accomplished something first thing in the morning. It's a military secret. They call it a military secret. It's not a military secret. It is something you should do. Just make your bed. First thing done, bam, you made your bed. Awesome. Second thing you should do on the day, you should drink a glass of water. Brad's terrible at this. First thing he does is he drinks a cup of coffee. Because you know how Brad is. I'm cranky in the morning. Cranky at the night. I'm just cranky. I'm getting old. Drinking more sweet tea. I do try to drink a little bit of water in the morning, but not as much as I probably should. But you should drink a glass of water first thing in the morning. Honestly. It's a good habit. Eat one less spoonful. I'm fat. Now, I was raised on a farm. Half of my life. Just half. It's kind of funny. My mom used to send me away to my grandparents because, they had a farm, and what kid doesn't like being out on the farm with the cow poop? I don't know. I didn't mind it. Manure. I think that's the term. It was cow poop. Shoveled more cow poop in my day than I care to remember. But hey, that's where the meat comes from. That's where your dairy comes from. Just thought I'd throw it out for conversation. But we were always taught to clear off the plate. Now that I'm getting older, I don't always finish everything. I have leftovers. But, I will say, in retirement, I can tell you this now. I can tell you by my pants. Since I retired 2 months ago, my belt needs an extra hole. Because Brad's not growing outwards. He is shrinking. So retirement is the best thing for me. And that's probably because I'm not eating out as much and eating as much junk food on the road. Yes, I'm having to endure my wife's cooking, but it is what it is. She's a good cook. She might be listening. Don't make any bad comments either. Massage parlor guy. Actually, she thinks that's funny, but just throw it out. This big, somebody makes a comment about massage parlors, but hey, it's all good. She has a sense of humor. And no, she will not come on camera because she's a little more of an introvert than I am. But, not everybody can be a silly, happy, go lucky type of person like myself. And for some reason, likes talking to himself in a closet by himself with nobody around to listen to them besides me. Huh. Interesting. Take the stairs. Okay, that's not happening. Taking the stairs. All right. But you should take the stairs every now and then. And I do take the stairs going down. It's going back up that I might just go ahead and take the elevator. All right. How about deleting social media off your phone? I will tell you, I don't have a whole lot of social media. And because I'm making videos, my YouTube time has been cut. I used to watch YouTube just like all you guys, way more than. So I'm going to finish up, hopefully, sometime soon. I talked about deleting social media. Don't watch YouTube as much as I used to. Another one you should do is clean up as you go. I don't clean up anything. I have a housewife. By now, hopefully she's not listening. So she does all the cleaning. Everything is spotless after every meal, more or less. She does let things go from lunch to dinner every now and then. But generally speaking, that place is spotless. So the last thing I'm going to talk about, just in this Sweet Tea episode, and it's a little alarming, link to the article below, 37% of Americans have maxed out credit cards. Say what? Yes, 37% of Americans max out their credit cards. If you have credit cards, oh God, if you have credit cards, please pay them off every month. I mean, Dave Ramsey doesn't want you to have credit cards. I don't care if you have credit cards. I use a credit card. I've told you that more than once, I think. I put every expense on a credit card. That way I can go back and look and see exactly how much I'm spending every single month and do a budget and know where everything's at. That's the way I use it. That's all. But if you're younger, don't get carried away of pulling out that credit card and swiping it. It could be a killer. There's been 1-2 months that I carried a credit card debt in 35 years. 35 years. Do not get into the habit of carrying credit card debt. It will keep you from retiring. Get out of credit card debt. Kind of like Dave Ramsey. You shouldn't have debt. Very limited. If you want to retire early. And some people, they're okay to working until they're 65, 70, 75. Now, and there's nothing wrong with that. My grandfather worked on a farm until he was 92. 92. He bought the farm. He moved from one farm to another farm, and he bought that other farm because it was way farther away from any town that's ever going to approach on him. He worked that farm. He bought it in his 60s, and he worked that farm until he was 92. And I hope to have a long-lasting hobby between now and 92 that keeps me young. And maybe one day I go do something else someplace, but it's going to be what I want to go do, right? Just to keep me young and active. But hopefully this is it. Talking to myself in the closet. Never know. So hopefully this is a little bit of sweet tea this week. Hopefully it was really positive. Next week, RDTE, XDTE, and QDTE will be a little bit slower. Probably 5 minutes. I'm going to commentary on all the calls, show you the numbers. But hey, what I showed for forecast looked pretty darn good compared to what they paid. And I'm just going to continue to do that because it doesn't take very long. I get as many views on that. Lots of thumbs down, but that's because people are just being negative towards me. But so what? So until next time, God bless. And look for that EOS video. It's going to be a sweet tea version. So I'm not going to memorize anything. I'm just going to look at the screen and talk about it. Have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Little info commercial. So if you shop Amazon, click the link below to the Amazon store and go buy everything that you want on Amazon. I get paid a little percentage. It's a way to support the channel without having to spend any additional money or give me anything, because you're really not giving me anything. I just get a little percentage of what you buy, or the seller, however that works. But I greatly appreciate clicking the link and go shopping on Amazon. I shop on Amazon, I want to say, a lot, more than I should.